Hey everyone, welcome back to Notes to Stealth. My name is Melanie.
And I'm Corey.
And if you don't know who we were both born and raised in the AUB, a polygamous cult here in Utah, or the Apostolic United Brethren. I was raised with 4 moms and 34 brothers and sisters.
And my dad had 9 wives and 39 of us little rugrats running around in the same compound up in Pinesdale, Montana. So I came from Montana.
Yep. And my dad is the current prophet of the AUB.
Mine is not.
No, Corey's is not. So today we just got finished watching season 19, episode 25. Oh my gosh, I did not write the name of the episode down.
He heals the broken hearts.
Okay.
I did. I brought my notes.
I know.
So
Thanks, love.
Yeah.
So this episode, I want to talk about it a little bit before we get too far into it. At the beginning of every episode, we've been working on reminding everybody to do their healing work, reminding everybody to, if you haven't started doing your work, start now, because your family deserves to be loved better. You deserve to be loved deeper. And this episode right here is the reason why we are starting to say that on every single one of our episodes, because of the dynamics that happened within this family, watching the way that they interacted with each other at the gravesite. And it broke our hearts. I think that we watched this episode 15 times.
Yeah.
We watch it and then rewind and then watch someone else's expression, rewind, watch someone else's expression. There was so much that happened in this episode from our perspective. So please bear with us. We've tried to keep some of the episodes a little bit shorter that are the remembrance of Garrison.
Mm-hmm.
And we've wanted to be respectful about how we've approached this subject and these episodes. This one might be a little bit longer because there really is such a deep dynamic that's happening, that's going on. And what we're going to do is create this long video, and then we'll create a couple shorter videos to go deeper into some of the other subjects that we wanted to go into. Because there's just so much happening between the different family members, between you're seeing some people, get together. Some people aren't getting together. Mary made the comment that it took him passing for all of us to get together again, but how together did they really get? Just because they stood on the lawn together at a memorial site, does that really mean that the family got together? And so there's just so many different layers and dynamics. So please bear with us as we go through this. We're going to try to keep it shorter, but there's a lot to go into. So it starts out with Cody saying that, it starts out with Janelle stating that her kids really were in charge of planning the activities and the get-togethers and everything that was happening on this trip. And we heard Cody say that there's going to be a family reunion. So sounds like a busy trip. They're trying to, do a bunch of things all at once. I thought that was really interesting because this really does happen in plural families a lot. When some of the dynamics between the parents start to split apart, you will see the children take over and start to organize and start to bring the family back together, at least those who are talking to those. And unfortunately, I did a video maybe a year ago on us versus them. And I feel like in this episode, you're seeing a lot of that dynamic of us versus them that's happening. And talk a lot with my hands because this one got me really going. This one was really hard to watch. And so I feel like this is our perception. We could be totally way off. This is just something that we noticed based on our experiences going to, funerals that have this multi-layer of 4 wives and 35 kids. Normally when you have a funeral, you've got a mom, a dad, and maybe 6 kids. Right now you're dealing with 4 mothers, 1 husband, and 20 kids, however many kids they have. And so now you've got all of these different personalities that feel strongly about what should and should not be done.
And now grandkids coming into the picture. So
Right. And so you see Cody right off the bat say that he went to the funeral home and he had to tell his boys to take a step back because this was his responsibility. Go ahead.
No, I just reading on my notes on that too. So, yep, he just said that. Well, I've lost my notes. Go.
So he asks the boys, please take a step back. I'm the first one that held him, other than his mother. And I feel like this is my responsibility. Now, I am just going off of my experiences. Again, I don't know if this is the case with the Browns, but Cody has isolated himself from so much of the family. There's so much separation there. So of course, Janelle's boys are going to jump in and start handling things. There's so many parallels that happened when my brother died.
Mm-hmm.
We jumped in. My mom was in such devastation. My dad was in Pinesdale in Montana. And so us children jumped in and organized. We started making things happen because that's what happens in these polygamous families. The parents sometimes, I feel like, I noticed, they check out. Life is hard. Everything they do is so hard. And now this is too much. And so they disconnect or they check out. And then the children are even more parentified than they were as children. And so it's really hard to watch sometimes. So Cody comes in there. I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can, but I struggled a lot with Cody on this episode. And so I want to tell you, I want to be honest with what I saw, but then also still be respectful of their grieving process too. And so I want to be really careful. There's a line there that I want to make sure I'm not crossing over.
We understand that they're all grieving in some,
right.
We don't want to judge the way they're grieving, but behaviors are still something that we can point out. So.
Right. And when you have this dynamic in a family and you have a parent who's checked out, he's angry, he's bitter, he's frustrated with his boys. We've heard him call his children jerks, all of these different things. And now here's a trauma event that happens. And he has been so used to the first 20 years of this family. He was the core. He was the center. He was the one that had all of the attention paid on him. He was in charge.
Yep.
And now he's not in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know how to handle that because this is a major trauma that he should be in charge of, again, because this is his family. But yet he's been checked out for so long that the children are like, yeah, dude, you don't get to be in charge anymore.
Well, he diversified his family down so small.
Right.
He paid so much attention to a small portion of his family for so long now that when something happens in the rest of the family, those kids jump in to take care of the mothers, to take care of the body, the brother,
right,
and do all that stuff. They have, Logan, all of these guys have been parents almost to all the other brothers and siblings, and so they're there jumping in for the grieving process,
right,
for the mothers and for the other kids.
And not to step on Cody's toes. That's not why they're doing it.
But he's been absent.
He's been absent in the family. And so they step in as a natural reaction to what they're used to doing. And now that's, in my experience watching this episode, frustrated Cody because, wait a minute, I'm the patriarch of this family. I'm in charge. I will do the things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you check out and you're absent for so long, this happened in my family when my brother passed. My dad wanted to step in and be the patriarch, but he had been absent for so long that, of course, we stepped in and we started doing what needed to be done. Did you have something else? You breathed.
No, and he just showed up at the last moment, wanting to take that patriarchy.
My dad
spot.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Cody did this, but he's wanting to be a part of it, and these kids are already running with it, getting everything taken care of because the mothers are grieving. So.
Right. And Cody's there telling him, take a step back. This is my responsibility. I will handle this. I will do this. Almost like he was offended or displaced because these boys were just going to take over. And you see this all the time in polygamous families, all the time. These men, they check out and then they want to check back in when it's important, but they don't need to be bothered with the day-to-day lives. And most of them aren't on national television calling their children jerks either. So there's that perspective.
Well, and the mothers raise these boys to do this, to jump in and to help. These are strong, emotionally strong, nurturing boys that are wanting to make sure their moms are right, their siblings are all right. So they're jumping right in.
So. I know this is an emotional one. We cried a lot. I'm already trying not to cry as we talk about it.
And help these mothers grieve.
Right. Cody made a comment on one of the episodes that he has FOMO, that he has a fear of missing out. These are the moments that these men had checked out for so long, and now they want to jump right back into the situation as if there was nothing that happened. And the children don't forget that. They don't want it to be that way. Well, they would love for it to be that way, but it's not that way. There's too many wounds and too many hurts. Yeah. And so, I think it's sad and tragic that you've got Robin's family vacationing, and then you've got Christine and Janelle and their whole section of the family going on a fishing trip. And there's such a separation there. And it broke my heart to watch this because, Cody loved his relationship with Caleb. And on the day that they're fishing, you see David and Caleb interacting. I mean, and thank God for David that Christine found such a gem that came in and is picking this family up and loving them the way that their father should have and didn't, and has chosen out of it. And again, I'm not trying to shame anyone, especially in the grieving process, but this is how it happens. And we watch this happen in polygamous families all the time. Somebody comes in and picks up the mother and the children and takes care of them when the father abandons them. And we're seeing this. Well, and you did that. You were amazing. You came in and picked us up when we needed somebody. And so I'm watching David have this kind of relationship with Caleb on at the fishing thing. And I'm wondering, my heart hurts because I'm wondering what Cody sees in that. Like, does he even notice? Does he even care?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I personally would, but I've seen other men in the AUB in life that don't care. That's somebody, somebody else has taken over the problem. So, or that part of it, I just want to show up and
be in charge because I'm the patriarch. I'm the patriarch of this family. So this is where my emotions start to run high, because these men come in and I'm the patriarch of this family. Respect me because of the position, not because I earned the respect, not because I deserve the respect, but by damn, you will respect me because of my position. And that is infuriating. That's infuriating to me as a woman. That's infuriating to me as a child, that I've had to deal with my own father that way. And that you can see that the Brown kids don't respect the position that Cody thinks that he holds in the patriarchy.
And it's a failure. It's a failing position to try to hold. If you're not going to do the work and love on the kids and grieve with them and nurture them, then you don't get to just demand that position.
But a lot of the men unfortunately in the AUB, in polygamy, we're going to speak about AUB because that's where we're from. A lot of them feel that it is their God-given right to be respected as the patriarch. Whether they've earned it, deserve it, it doesn't matter. It's the position that they have, and you better respect it. And so I really struggle with a lot of this. So you're going to see me struggle throughout this whole episode. I really appreciated when Janelle starts talking about the relationship that she has with her children. We just talked about that a little bit. You can see it. You can see that these children love her.
Well, the original, all three of the mothers. Right. So they're all getting together, creating these memories, grieving together. And that's ultimately what it is. There's a grieving moment together. And then I saw the opposite of it, where I don't know, Cody and Robin were they communicate that there's memories up there, that they've created these memories, and now he wants to create those memories with his new wife and kids. And and that's the sad part, even though he's saying that this place was a place that Garrison and all those guys created memories. They all know about each other. And yet he's going to come up there and create it with his new family and doesn't want to get together, or is not invited to get together with the other portion of the family.
This whole episode just broke both of our hearts because, again, we have said this, children are the collateral damage in this religion. And you're seeing that in this episode. And you're seeing that even with the grandchildren. And I know Madison protects her children the way that she feels necessary, but this man has 3 grandbabies right there with it's heartbreaking to watch. And so this is why we say, do your healing work so that you can go to these kind of situations and love your family.
It's interesting too, because in previous episodes, they've talked about creating safe spaces. Robin has. And it's interesting that the rest of the family needs to create a safe space away from Robin and the kids, or
Robin and Cody.
So
one of the things that I really wanted to point out,
just my opinion.
now this is, I'm sure this is the case in many societies and many communities, but in the AUB, there is symbolism in everything.
Yeah.
Everything has symbolism. Every dream has symbolism. They love to live by symbolism. And so you're hearing them talk a lot about a pilgrimage. You're hearing Cody talk a lot about, the poetic. We paused it to talk about it for a minute because there's really this type of, in my experience, when a polygamous man disconnects and basically is absent from his family. That's such a great word. Thanks for bringing up that word, because I don't want to say abandoned, but is absent from his family. And then he reflects on his situation with that family. He romanticizes that relationship and makes it sound more grandiose than it actually is. And so that was one of the things that we stopped and talked about, because if you listen to the way that Cody's talking about it, he's got to have this pilgrimage, take his child home. We were looking up the definitions of pilgrimage and the definitions of what was the other one that we had? Sanctified. Yeah.
So,
and a pilgrimage is a journey to a holy place, which can lead to personal transformation, after which the pilgrimage returns to their daily life. And it's a traveler, literally one who has come from afar, whose journey is to a holy place. And he's bringing this up over and over and over. And the part that I struggle with the most is he has been absent from these children's lives for so long. And now everything is about him. Everything's about his healing. Everything's about what he needs to get through this process. And maybe not, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, hey, how are my children doing? Hey, how's Janelle doing? Hey, and being that, he wants to be that patriarch. He wants the respect and demands the respect of the position of the patriarch, but doesn't want to be the leader of the family, truly. Because a leader would make sure their people are okay. They would make sure that, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? What can I do? Go ahead.
And I would say that, this might be stuff that he does off camera, but
yeah, because it could just be the editing.
But I don't know. Just after watching some of the footage from the funeral or from the burial, I was like, he's probably not doing that off camera either.
Right.
Just because of his body language and such.
Right. So I just think it's sad. Janelle does make the mention that Garrison's passing has caused a lot of healing in the relationship between the children. And then she makes sure to point out, but not between Cody and the kids. And it is so tragic because here's an opportunity for him as a father to step in and love his children and protect his children and scoop them up and hold them. And he chooses not to. And he chooses to make it about him and his experience and what he needs to do instead of holding his family. And breaks my heart.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Now we're both going to get emotional through this whole damn thing.
Which,
So then I just think it's really sad. Cody makes the mention that him and Janelle aren't getting along very well. But when he asked Janelle, can I take my son in to bury him? And Janelle said, I think that would be a beautiful thing. Cody said he was glad that she saw it that way too. And I'm curious if she wanted, there's maybe conflict in the family where people didn't, maybe there was people who didn't want him to be actively participate in anything, but Janelle wanted to give him something to participate in. Garrison was his son. And so I thought that was very grace. She gave Cody a lot of grace.
Well, and he said that. He said she was very, very kind and graceful. And so, and yet, what's he doing back? That is he being kind and putting some grace on his children, on the other wives, and he's still butt wounded about the whole process.
Right.
So
when I quoted it, I put it in there, I need this.
Yeah.
And the episode I felt like is so full of what Cody needs that he really isn't holding his family. He's not holding the sacred oath and covenant that he made to these children and to these women.
What do they need? What are they longing for?
Right. And you see, watching these women talk about Janelle, Christine, and Mary talk about Garrison, and you can feel it. Like I did not expect Mary coming out of left field and kicking the crap out of us every time she talks about Garrison. It's hard to listen to her because of the genuine love and affection she has towards him and Christine. And it's
Janelle, the original three who raised these children are full of grief.
Right.
And remembrance. So,
and Christine gave a really great point where she said, we expected a lot. We have expectations of our family. We have expectations of each other. And maybe now we can just hope that we can love each other, hope that we and drop the expectation of what we expect other people to show up for us at. One of the things I wanted, do you have something?
No, I just found there it says, Janelle is kind and gracious. I need this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the kids need a dad. So be kind and gracious back.
Right. One of the things I wanted to point out is how in polygamy, you see a family be small and they start with their roots, and you see the family start to build and to start to grow. And quite often you will see when a family hits a certain age, the family separates. And this mother will go and her kids will go one way, this mother and her kids, and there's not a lot of intermingling between the families anymore. And I think that's really tragic. And I feel like you're seeing some of that with the Browns too. Some of them are wanting to stay together. Some of them are wanting to connect. And yet this happens so often in polygamous families where you just have a million personalities and a million different opinions and that people see things from different perspectives, and they don't want to be, they don't agree with this person, or they don't agree with this lifestyle, or they don't agree with this. And so you'll see the separation of the family when it gets larger. And then a lot of times people don't even recognize, oh, wait, there was people that I grew up with. I had no idea they were siblings because their family had separated so significantly.
Well, and I know, but the Brown kids are pretty close for the most part.
They are, because they're still young, but as they get older, that's what I'm talking about. You'll see it as they get older. There's a bunch of families I can think of that have almost completely, and I remember thinking, I can't imagine not talking to my siblings. Like, I love all my siblings. And now that here we are, talking on YouTube, I have a handful of siblings that won't talk to me anymore because of it. And so you get that separation that's happening. In the Brown family, you've got a couple of kids that choose alternative lifestyles. You've got other kids that don't want to associate with that. And so you're starting to have the judgments are like, oh, I don't approve of your lifestyle. Oh, I don't approve of this. And so you'll start to see separation happen. And I see that a lot in large families. Even in your family, you see it where you've got 2 or 3 or 4 kids that will branch off and don't want to have anything to do with the rest of the family.
Yeah, but yeah, I have siblings that, well, I'd say probably, and I don't know, because I've been talking on here, I probably have siblings that are a little more distant who are still part of the AUB, but for the most part, I feel like most of my siblings have reached out.
Oh, I know. But you don't interact like we used to.
No.
And I feel like you're seeing that with the Browns. You're starting to see them go up, create their own families, and separate a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And this is very common in the AUB, very common. Cody, to me, seems in this episode to have a lot of regret, a lot of sadness, but also not enough to do something different. And so, and I could be wrong on that. It could just be the editing, but it seems like, when he went to the gravesite to dig the grave with Tim and his brother Scott, it's like he's romanticizing the entire process because he wants to remember it to be a certain way. He doesn't want to remember hey, all of my children and all of my wives are up here and none of us are speaking to each other outside of the filming of the actual gravesite. He doesn't want to remember all that. He's going to romanticize certain portions of it. And I see this very common too. I felt like this with my dad when my brother died. He didn't actively participate. He's to this day has never called my mom and had any sort of conversation with my mom about their son that died. We never saw him. We didn't talk to him, nothing until the actual funeral when he showed up to the funeral. And I see, and again, it could be the editing, but that's what it appears like happened in this episode, that Cody and Robin are up there 2 or 3 days. And the other kids are up there 2 or 3 days, and they're not seeing or connecting with each other until they get to the gravesite. That's a tragedy. Go ahead.
Yeah. And when my kind of take, and it could be wrong, I'm just looking at it but it was almost like that his journey, what did he call it? The
pilgrimage.
It was almost a pilgrimage of, the word slipped my mind, but basically penance. He's doing penance and taking the child up there and digging the grave. And like Melanie said, romanticizing that whole process of taking his child home. So
right. And I have a sister who passed not too long ago, and she was furious and angry with my dad before she passed. But then he had one phone call with her, and now I feel like he romanticizes that entire, oh no, we were wonderful. When she passed, we were really good. We loved each other. We forgave each other. We said all the most wonderful things to each other, and we forgave each other. And so, but he didn't come to her funeral. And so I feel like this is a very common way for these men because there's so much ego involved in this lifestyle, they can't just sit down and say, I failed. I'm sorry. They have to romanticize. They have to create this pilgrimage, this journey of, let me carry my son one last time so that he can have some, I don't know. I definitely have some sadness about that, that reflects maybe as a little bit of anger sometimes, because I do get so frustrated with it.
And this is us just reacting as kids that grew up in the AUB in kind of similar situations. So
right.
That we've been through with passings and death. So
right. And so it does. Your dad passed though before any of your siblings did, huh? So you didn't have that experience of.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Did. So your dad passed first, and then your sister passed 2 years later or something. Yeah. So and so yeah, there is some of that frustration that I had watching this episode, seeing the parallels between how Cody's behavior and my dad's behavior were so similar. I am curious to think what Scott and Tim, I'm curious to know what Scott and Tim maybe thought about digging that hole and having it recorded for television.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been a lot of question, like, can you just go dig your own hole? Absolutely. In most cemeteries, you absolutely can if it's an urn. One of my very best friends did that with her mother. She dug the grave herself for her mother and went and buried it. They gave her all the parameters that needed to be followed. And she did. And she went up there. So this is not uncommon. But a lot of people just don't always bury an urn. They keep the urn, or they have it. And so it's not always something that's buried.
Mitch did a beautiful job with that urn too.
Oh my gosh.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Mitch's whole family is very talented in carpentry. And my brothers are direct cousins with Mitch. So their mom and Mitch's dad are siblings from the same mom, same dad. And so my brothers are very talented too. I think it comes through that line. Most of my brothers own their own carpentry companies, and they all work together. Tell me, like, jump in if I'm just over talking everything. I feel like you had way more notes than me, and I'm just over here. Blah, blah, blah. But I am curious to see what Scott and Tim thought about it, because of how exaggerative Cody was about the pilgrimage that he was on, and the holy the holiness, or the what's the word, spiritualness of his journey, and yet he put it on television. And so I'm curious to see how these men felt about that, actively participating in that.
I think they were there to support him as a brother to do that, but also to honor Garrison in creating a space for him. I appreciated that they were wanting to put his ashes with Grandma Cheryl. So that was amazing. And I think they were there for support. Probably not the most comfortable that it was there with the camera. Didn't say much other than asking questions, but they got in and showed up in their working clothes to dig that hole for Garrison.
Well, and Tim, what a class of a man. Yeah. I'm sure he has his faults like we all do, but what a class act that he had a relationship with Garrison and nurtured him into being a man.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that Cody didn't spend time with his kids doing, they were sent to Wyoming, and they received that one-on-one nurturing and rearing into manhood.
Mm-hmm.
And what a class act guy that he could do that for those boys.
Yep. He kicked my butt in the ceremony too. So, but brought humor to it. That is something that I think that whole family has, is a great sense of humor on the marriage. I've been wanting to do that in a marriage ceremony, but I haven't set it up, but I just haven't used that line yet. So probably in the next one.
For anyone who doesn't know, Corey officiates weddings here and there, and it's a fun little hobby that he loves to do.
No.
And I keep telling him, see, you need to do it. Tim pulled that off so well.
Yeah, he did really well.
He did so well. I thought it was appropriate that they asked the cameras to stay a distance. I'm sad that so much of this was even filmed, but nonetheless, there it was. And I appreciate that TLC kept at that distance, and that they let us know, hey, we're going to respect the family. You're seeing a lot of blurred out faces, you're seeing a lot of the dresses that the women wear. There's a lot of, before the FLDS went to the uniform dress, this is what FLDS people would dress like: the long sleeves, the long dresses, long braids in their hair. There's a lot of that going on with a lot of the people that had blurred out faces. Very common attire for polygamous people. Go ahead.
Well, the grandma, she kicked my butt too. So she's sitting right up front. And
Cody's mom.
So.
And I know a lot of people have said that she has dementia, but her heart was broken, and you could see that her heart was broken, and the tears that she was shedding were rough to watch. Tim's humor, I thought it was interesting that they had a neutral third party.
It was awesome.
Do the services. And we don't know. This is just speculation on our part, but there's so much hurt going on that I think it was wise that they had a neutral third party that could come in there that loved Cody, loves the wives, loves the children, and could come in there and make the service about Garrison and not necessarily the family conflict, because you could see the conflict all over the place between everyone. One of the things that Cody said when they were digging the gravesite, I probably should have thought about the fact that now everyone's going to have to stand on one side. You could see this was very prevalent, that you had the family on one side and Cody and Robin on the other side. Mm-hmm. There was no, and if you watch Cody's body language throughout this entire process, this is my interpretation. I don't know if this is exactly what happened. His body language was very aggressive. It was very controlling the environment and this. And I'm the one who dug this hole. I want it to look aesthetically pleasing. Because he was the center of the entire family's universe for so long and in charge just because of the position that he held, not because he deserved it or earned it. And now he doesn't have that position. He, in my opinion, is going to take control wherever he can get it, because he's not used to being dismissed. He's not used, but when you choose out and you're absent and you're not there, the family moves on without you. There's not much you can do about that. Because you're the one who chose to be absent, but he is not going to be dismissed at his son's funeral. And he was very, in my opinion, very aggressive in his stance throughout the entire funeral.
Well, and then
or service.
Yeah. And when they were placing the urn in the ground, and then Logan says, "Hey, Dad, you need help out?" And he's like, "Nope." That right there was, to me, him basically dismissing, "I don't need help from any of you guys.
Come on, just let your son be there for you."
Logan just wanted to help him up out of, "You need help up," and "Nope, I got this." And then he makes his stance, hands on his hip.
He stood there with his hands on his hip 90% of the service.
Yeah.
Very aggressive, very dominating.
And while the rest of the family are coming up and grieving and putting their items in the grave. So
Right.
So you're seeing these kids break down and weep and say amazing things and honor
their brother
Garrison and their mom and do that. And he did not have the stance of somebody who was grieving with them, in my opinion. So
yeah,
in our opinion.
And one of the things that I really appreciated Tim's speech, where he said, a mother's anguish and a father's remorse. I feel like he wasn't trying to shame or guilt anyone. And unfortunately, in a highly controlled cult environment, these are the moments that leadership or people will take to shame and guilt people into compliance, into doing what they feel like is right.
Or to teach. This is a teaching moment, and you guys should have done this or that. This should have been done. So
right, and so
it was nice that he
was balanced.
That.
Yeah, he didn't want to. It didn't appear to me that he was out there to shame or guilt anyone. He was very balanced, and unfortunately, when my brother passed, my mom was adamant that my dad would not speak at his funeral because she did not want anyone to be shamed or guilted, or given a Sunday school lecture. And so often people will take this opportunity. They see it as an opportunity to speak to the wayward children that are no longer under their thumb or under their control. And so I really appreciated the way that Tim was very balanced. And then he also came back and said that the mother's joy and the father's pride. this man is I was so impressed with his wisdom.
Yeah. Cody's just, when he was creating the whole, he said some things in there also that he's using a lot of, you said it perfect, poetic terms, so that he's building an altar, he's building a shrine,
right,
if you will, of Garrison's passing. And so, yeah, so in the AUB religion, they prepare the body and sanctify it. Then they prepare the grave and sanctify it. And so there's no desecrate. You shouldn't. So in my family, they prepared my dad's body in his temple clothes, and basically sanctify him. He's laying there, and I did have a brother that came up and wanted to leave mementos, and he put 2 fishing flies into his sash, and people were offended. Not anybody in our family, but other people in the community were offended that we would allow my brother to
defile the
and
temple
it's like,
clothes.
no, he's leaving a memento, something that
Yeah.
was valuable in the connection with his father, and
Yeah.
it's not a desecration. We didn't look at it as a desecration, but I guess other people would. And so, yes, you got wayward children who may or may not be desecrating a holy spot, if you will, and judgments coming there. And I loved when Tim made the statement that he feels like that once he passes, there'll be an embrace with those that he's loved. Garrison. And that's amazing, because that's probably against any of the belief systems that we grew up with, that when somebody passes in this manner, they're not
redeemable.
We will not be able to embrace them on the other side. And he has faith and hope that he will. So that's awesome. That's a belief system that I have too. So,
well, and I mean, obviously Cody's mom throughout the entire episode just undid both of us a lot. I'm curious to know what she feels about watching the separation between the family members as they stood around this gravesite. It was hard to watch, because this family was such a good, strong family for so long, and to watch the complete, absolute separation. To me, Tim did a very, like I said before, very fair and balanced and very loving and kind service for Garrison. And I can only imagine, this is my assumption, that the kids did not want Cody to have anything to do with the actual speaking at the grave. And so that's why Janelle allowed him to do bring Garrison to the grave, so that he felt like he had an active role. And then of course he just can't not steal the moment for himself. And he gives Tim backs up so everyone can come bring their mementos in, and Cody has to stop. I got to tell you a dream that I had. Now, this goes back to what I said at the very beginning, that everything has symbolism. Everything. Everything is how the Lord is talking to that person, how they're having dreams, how they're having, I'm trying to think of but it's just, it's craziness to me how everything has a symbolism. Like, it's poetic that Cody's the one dropping, coming and cutting, doing the gravesite. And so, Cody's got to tell his dream. And it appeared to us, we could be wrong, it appeared to us that some of his children were frustrated and actually laughed at him while he was doing his little speech about the dream. Like, of course he can't just not say anything, even though he wasn't supposed to.
Well, and he just says, I've got one thing to say, and it'll be short. And then he went into it. Usually somebody who was told not to I mean, if you hadn't been told not to speak, you wouldn't have started that out. So just the way he started his dreams thing, I assumed the way he spoke that he had been asked not to speak.
That would be my assumption too, because again, unfortunately, there's so many different opinions and so many different people. Half the people don't want him to speak. And so, but everybody who has these types of dreams need to let their dreams be known, you know. And to me, it's just tragic because they have these dreams and they think that they're, and maybe they are for them. I don't want to discount anyone's spiritual experiences, but they believe that they are very spiritual experiences, and they need to be shared. In my experience, when something is a very spiritual experience, it's not shared between everyone. Okay, so
sorry, we had we paused for a minute. We had our no soliciting signs not working.
Our no soliciting sign was just violated. But when Cody got up there to speak, it's like he always has to be a part of. He's got to have the limelight all the time, and that was really sad to me because he had this spiritual experience that he had to share with everyone else, and he just had to insert himself into the process. And you could see some of his children standing in the background, grinning and smiling like, yep, this is him. This is typical for him.
And this is me being a kid growing up in this. I would have looked at that. And so I was grinning with them because, oh, Dad's listening to sad music. That's what he's telling us in his thing. He's listening to sad music. So, and talking to Garrison, yeah, he won't walk across the lawn here and talk to us and communicate with us. So, well, at least he's letting us know he's grieving this by letting us know in his dream that you shouldn't have to listen to that sad music anymore. So,
yeah.
It's
Now
just
that
me being a cynical kid.
Now that his pilgrimage is over, the sad music can be done. This was a hard one for us, and we apologize if we come off a little bit more aggressive on this one, because we have experienced this from a child's perspective and watched the hypocrisy of our parents.
Gone through the funerals, so
it was really tough. You know, like I said earlier, when my brother passed, nothing from my dad, crickets, nothing. We had a get together at our home. Our home is the family home, I guess. Everyone was invited. Every single sibling was invited. And my dad did not, he didn't come. The first time we saw him was at the funeral. And then, there was a lot of controversy. Where does he sit? And half my siblings were like, he can sit on the back row. I don't want him here. And, I set him on the front row, very far away from my mom, 2 sections away from my mom. And his other wives sat with him. And man, they were trying to get security to kick him out. Half the kids were trying to get security to kick him out of there. There was so much animosity going on. And I was trying to put out fires on top of trying to make sure my mom was okay, on top of telling my dad, you're fine, sit there, don't move. Your wives can sit with you too. That's fine. You are his father. You just have to be off to the side. So my mom was front and center right next to the casket. And we did have my brother cremated, but not until after the services were over. And I put my dad, again, 2 sections away on the opposite end of the section. And I was putting out fires all day. And so that's where I guess I can see some of the dynamics happening between the children, because that was what was happening between my siblings. And my dad showed up to that funeral, and he was wounded that he was not allowed to speak at his son's funeral, the son that he had nothing to do with, the son that he was embarrassed by because he was Down syndrome, the son that he really didn't actively participate in raising, in doing anything with. And so as I watch Cody and I watch these children and some of the frustrations that they have, because now he's going to step into the limelight. Now he's going to step in as the father. They're frustrated. They're disappointed. The lack of respect he has zero respect from those children. You can see it all over their faces.
Well, and you've got the boys, Logan, going around comforting, giving hugs to all the mothers. Even I think I saw that he gave hugs to Robin's kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's in there going around being who Cody should have shown up to be.
It's like, dude, if this is your family, hold them with respect.
And if they say no, great, respect that, but go around and nurture. But yeah, that's where I was like, doggone it, Logan, Hunter, these kids are jumping in there and comforting and protecting their family and their mother and mothers, and they're being good boys. They are good boys. It's a good family. That is a good family that has been raised, a loving family, and he's put himself outside of that because of his ego.
So he jumps into the hole to put the urn down in there, and Janelle goes to touch him, goes to have any level of affection, like we just lost a son. And he kind of almost turned away from her. Logan jumped right in to help her, like, Mom, do you need help? That was hard to watch. That was really hard to watch. And then she picks up the urn and she makes the comment that, carrying the weight of the urn, and that they weren't enemies. They were just parents.
Just grieving parents.
Yeah. Like, how amazingly sweet is that? And then Logan reaches over to ask Cody, hey, can I help you out of the hole? And Cody's just, nope. Don't. He was so cold. It appeared that he was so cold to all of those children, to all of the wives, to all of the children. He was very, it felt to me, and body language, very domineering, very controlling. And then when he got out of the hole, he stood there with his arms on his hips, watching his children kneel at the graveside of their brother. God kicked my ass.
Put tokens, put things that they cared about in there with him. So
yeah. And I mean, just the heartfelt love and the messages from these children. Hayden, Hunter. And then at one point, Hunter stood back and saluted Garrison. So yeah. And you watch each one of these mothers give what they believed was their token of love for this child that they adored.
Actual tears.
So in scriptures, that the tears of a woman are considered some of the most precious things on the earth. And, I went to Israel once, and I tell this to Corey all the time. I was not married to Corey at the time. I was married to my ex-husband, and 50 polygamous people, we all went to Israel. And at the tomb of Christ is the only place on the planet you can buy these little tear jars. And they were the little jars that the women would collect their tears. And they were considered the most sacred thing on the earth. And as I watched Christine lean over the grave of that young man and drop her tears into his grave, it was beautiful. So I know, kicking both of our butts. All right, sorry, tear break for a minute. Getting too emotional. But you watch Christine, and I'm so grateful that she had David there, because David was comforting her and holding her in a way that holding space for a grieving mother. And Cody just stood there with his arms on his hips, and it was really hard to watch. Mary went over and did her thing. Janelle did her thing, and these women are grieving. And yeah, just the energy that I felt like coming off of Cody was so aggressive. And then you've got Janelle, and she's on the couch and she's speaking, and she sounds exhausted.
Yeah,
it's over. We don't have to deal with this anymore. Like he's at his
laid to rest.
He's at his laid to rest. And it's almost like you could hear the exhaustion. Like, now we can move on. We don't have to do this dance with Cody anymore. We don't have to do this dance with his feelings or him feeling left out or him being a part of things. She can just be done with it. And it's like this breath that she can take.
And to be comforted by boys at that point.
Yep. And her children. So she just sounded very exhausted. And just watching this is so parallel to how my parents went through my brother's passing. There's
a lot of stress in that process, and to be able to, you still have the grief, but there's a point where you just, hey, he's laid to rest. He's in a safe place, and now I can just sit back and grieve and not deal with any of the other drama.
Yep. So. And there was so much drama going on in this graveside service. It's crazy to see.
And Janelle gave a lot of grace. She's an amazing woman. So
that woman is a saint. But yeah, Mary and Christine definitely got us pretty hard. Watching Christine give that boy her tears was tough. Then one of the things that Janelle talks about is how she finds joy and healing in being there with her children. And we're watching them. I'm assuming that is Caleb's family and that they're back at Caleb's family home. And so, because Caleb is from that area as well. And she just talks about how it's healing for her to be around her family. And all I could think about was how tragic it was that only a section of the family was there, that Cody, who created this family, and is nowhere to be seen. You've got grandbabies running around doing fireworks. You've got, fire pit. And this is the crazy thing about grief, is that you can be sitting there. We were sitting there and we'd laugh about something silly that my brother would do because he had Down syndrome and he had his quirks, and we would start laughing. And then all of a sudden it would be right into uncontrollable tears because that moment's gone. She appreciated how much her boys are very aware of her, which I thought was really sweet. This is very, I really appreciated just the character and moral values that these children have. So I thought that was really awesome. And I wrote M and L conversations. I can't think of who M and L are. Oh, Maddie and Leon. That conversation was sad to me because obviously everyone heard Maddie refer to Cody as Cody and not and I think it's so tragic when a child gets to the point where they refer to their parent as by their first name. My children refer to their biological father by his first name. Half my siblings refer to my father by his first name. And this happens a lot in this religion, where so often one wife and one set of children become the favorite, and then the others feel so discarded and abandoned and left behind. And so the anger and the sadness come up. And I really appreciated how mature Maddie was about it, because she was like, I can only control the way I react to it. And so I really appreciated her level of accountability. And
when they're talking about Robin's kids, I would just like to have a conversation with them. And if I've done anything to hurt them, I'm sorry. And Leon says, yes, I'd love to have that conversation. That is the conversation I want to see in whatever the get together afterwards next week. I'd like to hear mature adults now have that conversation, have more of a healing conversation than, and I love the three original wives. Yes, I want to hear their conversations, but they used to have the kids talking, and there were some good intellectual conversations, hearing it from the kids' perspective. I would love to see that conversation go on with those two.
Right.
So, because that was a reach out that, hey, we have nothing against Robin's kids. We love you guys too. I saw Logan go up and hug those kids and have the connection. those kids are going to become aware that the animosity that's going on has nothing to do with them. It's the way that their parents are acting.
Right.
Cody and Robin are acting. And so,
right.
yeah.
Well, and it just broke my heart because here they are, they're healing together as a family.
Yeah.
They're around a fire pit. They're fishing. They're healing together, and they're leaning on each other as resources to walk their way through this, walk each other through it, love each other through it. And how it just breaks my heart that Cody wasn't there to see his family shine and adore and love each other in one of the darkest times of their whole lives. And it made me sad, because when my brother passed, a lot of things happened here at our home, and we did invite everyone to come. And my dad missed a lot. He missed a lot of things. Chose not to be there because, in my opinion, this is such an ego-driven way of life that when these men's egos get bruised, that's all they can see. And they miss a lot of opportunity to love their family because they were so used to being the center of the universe. And now they're not. Their absence is noticeable. People move on.
They don't want to show up and be accountable for their actions.
Right.
So, and they're not people who should have to account for their actions. They
account to God and no one else.
That's right. They've done their penance. They've done their pilgrimage, and so they've cleaned their hands of any guilt around that, any accountability of why they've broken apart from their family. So, and they have to stand, and if they showed up to a place like that, they have to stand and look the people in the eye that they've abandoned, broke their hearts. And so when they do have to stand there, they stand there with their hands on their hips and show authority.
Yeah, the way he aggressively stood over that gravesite, like, I'm in charge of this place now. I'm the one who made this beautiful. You know, Cody's whole life is all about aesthetics. What does everything look like? What is everything? And he repeats this over and over and over. And he was feeling in my opinion, out of control. And that was the one thing he could control again in a situation where he felt completely out of control. We end the scene with Cody saying, he speaks about the sunsets, and he's like, I don't remember too many of the sunsets. I remember the people that I was with. And yet the majority of his children are around a campfire, loving each other and nurturing each other. And he's nowhere to be seen. So who's he spending those sunsets with?
He's removed himself from those sunsets.
Right.
Those kids.
So as you can tell, this was a very rough episode for us.
3 episodes of roughness. I'm getting excited to see the tell-alls so I can be snarky again. I've just been wrecked these last 3 episodes. I'm sorry, guys, but yeah, looking for some snarkiness in the tell-alls, some jokes. So. And
like I said at the beginning, we are trying to be as respectful as we can in this process, and then also point out the things that we notice that are a part of the culture that we grew up in. And so no disrespect to Garrison, and we're not trying to pick on anyone and the way that they grieve and the process that they grieve in. Just also wanted to point out the things that we can see, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really crappy, and it's hard when men's egos get bruised and their families fall apart. Yeah. And so, go ahead.
Mary and
Mary just
said 2 of the most amazing lines. Stupid, but said, there's a smile that's gone from here, and the world didn't even know what an amazing human this was. They're getting to know him now, so because of those women. So, man,
yep.
Those girls are kicking my butt.
Mary got us
I
hard
appreciate all three
of those women.
and those kids. So
I did not have mothers that loved me like that. I can't think of one other mother that loved me the way that I watched these women love these children. Yeah. I mean, what a blessing that these kids have, that they have these women who love them. And yeah, what a hard and
I'm lucky because I do. We grew up there. I do have mothers just like this. So and they'd be sad if I disappeared.
Yeah. So again, this is why we say do your healing work so that you can love your people, so that you can love yourself. Tim said it so wonderful at the service. In 20 years, how are your relationships going to be? Where will your relationships be? So do your healing work now. Not very many people get second chances. Corey and I were so lucky to get a second chance. And we've done so much healing work, and we love our people. We love our people deeply. We're not perfect at it, but we know it's a process, and we know it's something that we work towards every single day, is loving our people. So
say I'm sorry. It's amazing.
I don't do that very well. So that's one thing I'm working on. So please go home, love your people. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Subscribe our channel if you haven't, if you feel like what we have to say is valuable. We really appreciate you guys getting through these really tough episodes with us, because they've been a tough one. I have so much respect for these women and these children. Yeah. And love your people.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
See you on the next one. See ya.